All right. Well, we're going to give everybody just a few minutes to join. So for those who have already joined, we're just going to wait 1 minute for some others to jump on, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, I want to start by thanking everybody for taking the time today to join us to discuss business advice for withstanding the COVID-19 pandemic. Would like to start by introducing myself and your co-host for today. My name, you know all three of us as kind of the owner-operators of C Trust, C Coach, and Orchid. But today we're coming to you as fellow operators in the industry that have experience and backgrounds in advising businesses, through these type of downturns. So myself, Adam Winder, I currently serve as the president of C Trust, C Coach, and Orchid. I have 10 years experience serving as a consultant and as an advisor to mid-market or small and medium-sized businesses. And also, prior to joining the fertility industry, ran strategy for a multi-billion-dollar division of a large bank. In addition, we have Edward Brockschmidt, who joined us, who also has a long experience and background in advising and consulting businesses. Brock is an MBA and also a CPA, so he brings a unique perspective. In addition, we have Roland Saloom, who serves as our head of operations at C Trust, and also general counsel for C Trust, C Coach, and Orchid. Prior to entering ART, Roland also advised businesses on many of their legal matters. So we hope that, and our hope is that with the three of us and with our backgrounds, we can share useful advice and information today that's helpful to our friends, colleagues, and clients in our industry. So to start, just a few quick housekeeping things. Submit all your questions. The question link is at the bottom. At the end, Edward is going to read the questions, and we'll go through each and every one that we can. So there will be that time to go ahead and submit the questions throughout the presentation today. And we'll get to those right at the end. And we want to start by saying we're all facing this challenge together. And we recognize that COVID-19 has been such a unique impact, has had such a unique impact on the world, on all businesses, and particularly our industry. And as fellow business owners, we know how hard it's been to kind of manage and work your way through this pandemic. Navigating these times is very challenging. And we hope that we can share useful information to you all that's going to help you kind of get through this and come out of this pandemic stronger on the other end. We believe that on the backside of this, there's going to be a lot of demand and a lot of families that have made the long-term decision to grow their family through third party, and that demand is still going to be there. So we're all going to be busier than ever. And now is time, in this time of uncertainty, to focus on what we can control, which is staying positive and continue to prepare ourselves and our company for the future. In these times, with the kind of stress that comes along with COVID-19, it's really, really easy to forget why you got into the business in the first place. So take the time to think about that. Think about why you started your business. Think about the purpose of your business and how you got into this. Most of us got into this to help people and help people grow a family. And stay focused on that, because letting that be the reason in your core to kind of fight through and improve through this downturn is going to help guide you through it. And right now, organizations, our companies, our families, require strong leadership and inspiring leadership to navigate through these times, to lead our teams through these times. And now is the opportunity for us to all kind of come up and rise together and be those strong leaders to guide our companies through this pandemic so we can keep delivering on our purpose. So we're going to walk through the presentation here, and our goal through this is we're going to walk you through a way of thinking and a checklist, so you have a framework of how to kind of think through your business and things you could potentially do, and areas you could focus on to improve your business. We're going to walk through this kind of step by step today. Throughout this document, which is a takeaway, which has been emailed out, which we will email out again, as well as this recording. We hope that this walkthrough helps and that each of you can walk through this document and find things that are special or unique to your business that can be helpful. But we put this together in a logical way to guide folks as they go through this. So again, we can't control COVID-19. We can't control the government response. What we can control is how we manage our attitude and focus and how we manage our companies. So that's what we're going to focus today. And to start, your mindset is very important. And it's extremely important that you stay focused and stay positive. Again, be an anchor for your team and for your family. And stay focused and stay positive about the future. Your team, your company, and everybody and your clients really need you and need that strong leadership and that strong focus and positivity right now. We must lead through this, and we must stay positive, even when it's really challenging. So focus on your mindset and then pivot your energy with all that positivity and happiness, right? Because we know the future is going to be awesome and this will pass, to your business. The other thing you can control, right? Not the components you can't control, like the environment, but more so the things you can't control in your business. COVID-19 has had a massive impact on our industry and our businesses and on almost everybody's business and revenue kind of across the board. So it's really important that businesses and business owners right now stop and take time to really evaluate the current situation and then look at the next few months as well. So ask yourself, how has this pandemic impacted your business? And what is your financial situation? Some people really love and geek out with financials, like Brock and myself. Others do not. But this is a time where you really have to hone in on your numbers, right? So ask yourself, are you losing money with the current adjustment in the market with COVID and your current expense structure? What is your break-even point with your current expense structure? And then, are you breaking even currently or losing money? Most of us, without adjustments or adjusting our business, are probably we're losing a little bit of money or barely breaking even, which I think breaking even in today's times is a great place to be for many of us. So if you are losing money, then you have to say, what adjustments can you make? And we're going to talk through some of those adjustments. You can also ask yourself, well, I don't want to make adjustments, or I've cut as deep as I can, but I'm still losing a little bit of money. But I've set aside cash reserves to weather these losses, and this is strategic. That's an okay decision too. Then with that, and with the decision around if you need to make adjustments to your business to weather the storm, you need to think about how long you think this is going to last. And then also constantly evaluate as we get new information and different things happen in the markets. So and ultimately the goal in doing this and evaluating the current situation is to make sure that you can weather this storm and that you have a valid company that's strong and hopefully better to deliver on your purpose and the reason you got into the business in the very beginning on the backside of this. And again, I can't reiterate enough that this will pass. So now we're going to talk about, so now that you've evaluated your situation, you also have to look to the market to say, is there things that can help us? Is there programs that can potentially help shore up the financial stability of the company? So now I'm going to transition to Brock, who's going to talk about the different government programs that we've leveraged and that we think you should leverage.
Hi, everyone. So these programs I'm talking about now are extremely important to keeping businesses that are hurting afloat, right? So the governments have put out these programs over the last month or two And I've leveraged many of them myself. I've taken about 10 companies through the PPP process to completion, and I've helped out about another 20 to 30 other companies in different industries weather the process. So first, let's talk about the PPP loan. If you've done nothing for your company, this is the one you should be really attacking and looking at. This is by far the easiest to qualify for. There's no personal guarantees. And what's great about this specific loan program is that it's forgivable for at least the majority of it if the money's spent in the appropriate manner. And the goal of the program is to keep payroll still running for all your employees. So they don't necessarily have to be furloughed or laid off. And that's essentially the qualification for it to be forgiven. So there's a quick calculation that your bank will do, and it's essentially 2.5 times your monthly payroll. And the SBA will then give you that money, and you're supposed to spend it, I think 75 to 80% of it on the payroll cost. And then you can also attribute some of the other costs like rent and utilities and things like that. And also mortgage, or if you have a mortgage interest, things like that. And then next we have the SBA Express loans. Those are about $25,000. They're quick hits. There's no personal guarantees as far as I'm aware. And it's really just to kind of get you afloat quickly. And that's what they call the express loans. But the stipulation around this is that it's going to be, you have to pay this back. They don't, there's really no credit worthiness or anything. And you have to show that you actually been affected. Unlike the PPP program where you can just apply for any reason, with the Express, you actually have to show you've been negatively impacted. And then next we have the EIDL. This was the original loan that was set forth by the government. And you're able to apply at the very beginning and get a $10,000 advance that would then transition into the PPP program. However, things have changed in this program. And if you have not already applied, there's really no point in applying now because there are so many applications for this that the funds have been somewhat exhausted. And now they've really limited to only agricultural companies. But if you have applied and there's an active application, I'd highly suggest seeking out this loan when it becomes available to you. And they're really backlogged with applications. So it may take a month or two before they actually reach out to you. I applied the very first day this came out, and I just got contacted this week about it. So what's important to know about this is that there are no personal guarantees. They give you extremely favorable repayment options, and you don't even have to make a payment for the first year. So this is an extremely positive loan. If you need an actual loan that you're going to be paying back over time. Highly suggest following up the SBA if you have already applied for this. And finally, this is somewhat of a newer program over the last month, the Main Street Lending Program. This is a more of a traditional SBA style loan where they're going to be seeking your credit worthiness. It's a little bit more laxed, but at the end of the day, this is a much larger loan. I believe the minimum is $500,000. This is a very serious loan. The repayment rates and the interest rates are not that favorable. For example, the EIDL loans are going for between 3 and 4%. This is going to be more traditional 6 to 9% interest rates. This should be a last resort if all of these other programs have not worked for you. It's technically easier to get this loan than a normal SBA loan or a normal loan from a bank for the Main Street, but it should be your last resort. Adam, can you move on to the next slide? And so what do you do now? So I highly suggest you going after the PPP loan. So the banks have caught up to all their applications. When this program first came out, they were so backlogged and they didn't really understand how the program worked, and things were kind of a mess. But now the government has refunded the program, and the banks are able to take those applications, get you approved really quickly. For example, I did a company last week, and they got approved within 24 hours, had the money in 2 days. So the opportunity is there for anyone who needs that money. And if your current bank, like if you have a larger bank that necessarily can't get you the funds or the approval you need quickly, I highly suggest you go into a local smaller bank as they're more agile and they're able to get you the funds quickly over a large, bigger box bank. So, why do you, I want you to think that cash is king, right? Just like the slide says. Having cash on hand is extremely important. Even if you are going to have to pay back some of those funds, it's way better to have that cash on hand now than being cash strapped and not being able to afford the next payroll, right? So worst case scenario, you take the funds and then pay them back in a few months if you don't necessarily need them when the crisis passes. So, I see that happen with a lot of the companies I've previously advised. They'll try not to take debt because I'm the first one to say never take on debt. I hate debt. I'm a Dave Ramsey fanatic when it comes to this stuff. But in this situation, you want to make sure you have the tools you need to continue on your business, not have to lay off employees, and really get yourself ready for the next stage when all of this opens back up and there's a huge rush. So I highly suggest you take advantage of these programs. Also look into local government programs. They're out there. They're a little bit more difficult to navigate. There's much more of a process, but they're there if you start looking. So, that's pretty much all I have on these loans. I can answer questions, or if you have any questions after this, you're welcome to email me. I've gone through these so many times, I can answer almost anything. Back to you, Adam.
Thank you, Brock. By the way, just so everybody on the line who knows Brock would know, him speaking up and saying take a loan is a really critical and important moment for him individually. One of the benefits of working from home is you can't control when people come to cut your grass. So if you guys hear background noise, that's what's going on here. It'll pass in just a second. So we started off by saying this is challenging. It's impacted every business. Let's evaluate your current situation, right? And if the current situation and the reality is you need to make adjustments to ensure that your business will get through this and come out on the other end stronger, then you need to do so, and you're not alone, right? So we think the best place to start, if you find that you need to make adjustments, and most of us do, is start by evaluating your spending. Go line by line through the expense section of your income statement. Ask yourself these questions. Are you spending in the right areas? Are there areas you don't need to spend today? And where can you make cuts if you need to? We've listed out some of the key areas here that exist on all of our income statements that need to be considered. Starting with payroll, the biggest for most of us and often the hardest, marketing, sales, rent, and then the miscellaneous other expenses. And we're going to touch on each of these items briefly. So starting with payroll, this is the hard one and the emotional one, because as service companies, our very core is our people and our team, right? But it's also the largest expense. So sometimes if you need to make adjustments, this is an area that you can't overlook. So we start by evaluating the team to ensure you have the right team in place. Not only the people, but also you have the right people in the right roles. Ask if there's roles or things that exist that maybe aren't needed, that can be eliminated or reorganized in a way that's more efficient. And naturally, when you're evaluating your team, you have to really ask yourself, if you have weaker teammates who maybe don't align with your purpose or the goal of your company, who have been under-delivering for a long time and you've kind of let it slide in a more comfortable environment. And if you have those teammates, you may now be a good time to act on the underperforming teammates. Right here in the center of this page is the most important part on this page. And if you think of anything else around payroll, think of this, right? Fight for your strong teammates, right? Remember that finding and attracting and training and retaining good talent is extremely hard, right? So if you have really good teammates, now is the time to step up, take care of them to the extent you can during these challenging times. And if you're able to do that, we believe that you'll build more loyalty within that teammate, and hopefully be able to keep them as a high-performing teammate for an extended period of time. And look, even in the environment where you can afford to take care of those star-performing teammates or strong teammates, and their work is slow given COVID-19, you'll see as we go through the rest of this presentation, that there's a lot of strategic projects and areas that you can leverage at the time to improve the business. And if you ultimately determine that you've cut everywhere else and you've made every other adjustment you can, and you do need to make adjustments to payroll, again, you're not alone. Most companies are unfortunately having to do this, even though it's painful. One strategy that we like the most is considering taking a percentage decrease across all teammates. You message it thoughtfully and openly to all, and you say the message behind this strategy is, we've all made cuts, the company's down, but we want to keep this great team together. So we're going to make an adjustment, and then with the hope that as soon as this passes, and this will pass, that you can increase everybody back to where they were or what they deserve. And hopefully if the year progresses positively, you can even potentially make it up to them. That's a way to do it, where you can actually build some loyalty, withstand, not have to eliminate any jobs, and you kind of come together as a team. If you take that strategy and people move on, then maybe they weren't the right people really dedicated to the purpose of the company or your team in the first place. And ultimately, again, if you decide you must furlough, you're not alone. A lot of companies have had to do this. Be very thoughtful if you have to do this with your messaging. Try to help them in any way you can, whether it's allowing them to maintain their benefits, guiding them to unemployment benefits, or other opportunities. Try to help them in every way you can. That way, hopefully, again, on the backside of this, and this will pass, you're able to bring those great people back in to the company to continue to deliver on your purpose. So moving forward, the next expense item we're looking at adjusting is sales and marketing. And we call out here that this is not a great place to eliminate. Since the problem we're all having in the industry is given COVID-19, everybody has less sales or less revenue or less business coming in the door. So eliminating sales and marketing completely right now is if you have to, it's a must, understandable. But to the extent you can continue to spend, we advise you to focus to make sure you're spending in the right areas and that you have the right strategy with your marketing, right? So start by thinking about reducing spending on areas that have not generated results. Double down on the areas that have, and make sure that just because you've historically put your marketing dollars here in these different buckets, make sure that you take the time to evaluate what your needs are today in this environment. If your needs are intended parents, focus there. If they're surrogates, focus on surrogates. If it's donors, focus there. Or on agencies, whatever your need is specifically, make sure you evaluate what the most critical need is today in this pandemic and put your marketing efforts there. On top of your kind of marketing spend, you can also evaluate the organizations you support and that you market through and with, and make sure that those historical efforts have generated opportunities and currently are. And again, to the extent you can continue to support good organizations or your partners and be a good long-term partner to them, certainly do. But in these times, we have to put everything under a really critical lens. One positive note in this is, given that a lot of companies in our industry and really in general have cut back dramatically on their marketing dollars for their advertising. So you may be able to get a lot more with a lot less dollars and still be relevant and have a good impact with those dollars. So another area to consider, be cautious when cutting here because again, you have a revenue problem. This is what generates new leads. So be wise in your restructuring with this in this area. Now we're going to talk about rent payments, and I'm going to transition to Roland because as an attorney, he has a unique perspective on this and has led this effort for us.
Yeah, so one of the areas you might want to evaluate and see if you can cut back or see if you need to cut back on spending is your actual space, right? If you maintain an actual office space. I know a lot of us are working remotely now, and that might be a change for most of y'all, or at least, to the degree to which you did that might have changed or increased. But really take a look at whether or not you need this space. And there's a lot of advancements and what we're using right now, for example, every video conferencing and things like that, and Microsoft Works or Teams and Slack and things like that, and really ask yourself if you actually need a business, or can you get away with just like a virtual office where your email can go and you can just check it, once a day or, a couple times a week kind of thing. But look, if rent is an issue, talk to, your building manager, and find out, what's been going on with some of the other tenants. Find out exactly, what if they've been struggling trying to make rent, what kind of deals that they've been striking with the landlord or property owner. A lot of times, especially if you have a good relationship with that property manager, a lot of times she or he will fill you in on exactly what's been going on and what the owner or landlord has been willing to do for each tenant, right? You can mine them for a great deal of information. You can take that information, and after you've made a full assessment of whether or not you need that space, or whether you need a smaller space, or where you just go virtual altogether, if you need to terminate, your lease, or if you're looking for, maybe if it's, if you got 12 months left on your lease and you can't make rent for these 3 months, maybe tacking that on. So essentially it'll end, 3 months after, just amending your lease to end 3 months after it was supposed to, and just legally purposes for all intents and purposes, these 3 months just don't exist to anybody, right? And you can make those kind of deals. Or if you need to terminate your lease altogether, if you find that, look, even if we just move the payments down or decrease the payments, it's still just not feasible. You need to cut this space out altogether, and you make the decision to terminate your lease. Then you need to look at exactly how far along you are in the term of your lease. Definitely consult your attorney on some of the breakage provisions. If there's anything in there about impossibility of performance, if there's anything in there about, act of God and what those provisions lay out there first and foremost, then you want to take that and you want to approach your landlord and in a very cool, calm, and collected way, right? Don't be combative in any kind of way. There's a lot to be said about more flies with honey than vinegar, right? And that's the way you always want to start out things. Just, after you talk to the property manager, and you've assessed what you need to do, bring your case in writing to your landlord or your property owner and just lay it out. Look, we can't make the payments because of X, Y, Z. And we understand that, you've been making, these kind of accommodations or arrangements with other, the tenants, or if you can or cannot say, depending on if your property manager gave you permission to do that, and just say, hey, would you consider doing X, Y, Z? Or, we need to terminate, let's talk about how much that's going to cost for us to break the lease, right? A lot of times, most times what will happen is they'll come back with, depending on how long is left on your lease and what other extenuating circumstances you have, whether you improve the property or not. They'll probably come back with, a 2 month or maybe a 3 month or even a 1 month, depending how long is left on your lease, breakage fee, right? So whereas you vacate the premises, surrender your keys, and then you pay essentially, a month or an extra month just to break it off. And don't be afraid to, play a little hardball, right? Everybody's hurting. The unemployment is at, Great Depression levels. They know that. They know, the government response has been spotty at best at helping small businesses. They know a great deal of small businesses are going to go under regardless of whether or not they get PPE money or outside funding. And so you're in a position here to really negotiate a pretty good deal to get out of your lease if need be. I mean, the presumption is certainly in your favor that, if they get $1 million judgment against you, it's not going to be worth the paper that it's printed on, right? Unless they have a personal guarantee, in which case, talk to your lawyer. And again, just like Adam and Brock were telling you, I'm happy to answer any questions, look at your lease and get back to you with my assessment of, what kind of exposure you face with your specific individual circumstances and what you need to do to handle or combat possible litigation or in fact litigation.
Great, thank you, Roland. Some other areas we want you all to consider looking at, again, as you're going down your income statement, look at everything, but other areas that may be smaller, but these smaller areas add up, right? So look at professional fees, CPA fees, legal fees, consultant fees, other professionals you may pay for your business. See if there's room for improvement or cutting or adjusting there. Monthly subscriptions, subscriptions that you may have that were necessary before, or maybe you signed up for that weren't necessary. Certainly eliminate those. Look at utilities, your cell phone bills, your internet, little things like that, and see where you can reduce that collective group. Obviously, meals and entertainment has naturally shrunk right now since we can't entertain people and travel as well. But while you're going through this exercise, we encourage you to go ahead and take a look at what you've been spending there and how that's correlating to growing and helping the business. But that's an area that's naturally shrinking now, which is helping most of us during this time of adjustment. So this concludes the first part of our dialogue, where it's remember why you got into the business, fight to stay positive, fight to have a business on the backside of this so you can keep delivering on your purpose. Look at your current financial situation, make expense adjustments where you can strategically. And now we're going to pivot to focusing on improving your business. And again, we strongly believe that on the backside of this, our industry is going to be very busy, and there's going to be a lot of demand, and you need to be prepared for that. And if you leverage this slower time or challenging time to focus on improving your business, you're going to be better prepared coming out of this for years to come. So in thinking about how you can improve, or where you should improve, start by evaluating your needs and then setting goals, right? And anytime we talk about or talk to a business or think about our businesses, we always go back to, why do we exist? Why do we get into this for the first place? What is our purpose, or what is our mission? And why do our clients choose to work with us? Why do we exist? Really focus on that. And as you're thinking through this, remember to focus on your demographics, right? Who works with you? Who is your ideal client? Who sends you business? And how can you improve? How can you more focus on the right clients? And then how can you improve the relationships that do send you leads as well? Now's a great time to focus on those relationships as well as your clients. So start by evaluating that. And then you need to ask yourself a few questions, right? Ask yourself, what am I great at doing? What do I do exceptionally well? What makes me special? Find those areas and then expand on them and double down on those areas and maybe even enhance them better. And then you also need to ask yourself, what areas do I need improvement? Or does the company need improvement? Where can I get better? Some ways you can do that is finding maybe areas that you think that you don't execute well, seeing what your competitors potentially do better than you. But the core of really how you identify what you do great and where you can improve is, first of all, again, keeping an open mind and going and seeking feedback from your clients and your partners and your team. Now, there's a real caveat to this is it's really hard to give constructive feedback and it's really hard to receive constructive feedback. So you have to set the stage that you really want this feedback and that you want this to help you and help your business and create the environment where people are comfortable sharing with you without guiding them. After you do that, you need to be open to that feedback, and then you need to make adjustments where needed. One of the things about business owners that's kind of universal is most people get into business because they're independent and strong-minded, and they are convicted on their purpose and what they want to do. So this, for some entrepreneurs, can be a weak spot. So keep that open mind, solicit feedback, and take it all in, and then incorporate it. So what we did here to kind of frame up this presentation is we wanted to list some common areas of improvement for all of us to think about, right? And I'm going to list them here, and then we're going to go through each in a bit more detail. First of all, time management, your team, your client experience, process improvement, system and technologies, your brand, marketing and messaging, your sales strategy, and then the partners and providers you work with, both in terms of relationships and the folks you choose to use as and associate your brand with. So let's click into this a little bit. So first and foremost is time management, right? Our biggest resource as business owners and leaders is our time. So you need to make sure that you're spending your time and energy effectively. And look, you can't manage time. You can only manage how you spend your energy and how you spend your time. And you need to make sure that you're spending that energy and your time in the most impactful ways. So take the time, write down how you spend your days, your weeks, maybe even your months. And go through that same exercise with your team and say, where is my team really spending their time? And then ask yourself a few questions. One, is this the highest and best use of the team's time? Should we reallocate into the higher priority areas, which often get left unattended to because of all the pressing issues that come up throughout a day? And then also, is there ways to reorganize to make the time management more effectively? And then is there technology available to help you and your team manage that time better with less errors more effectively and ultimately deliver more of the high impact stuff? Your time is your biggest resource, and one of the most valuable lessons from highly successful people is you need to be somewhat greedy with your time because it's your most valuable resource, and know when to say no. So next, we'd like you to look at your team. Where is there areas to improve your team? But as in any evaluation, at any company, guess what? It starts at the top with the leaders, or the leader, or the leaders. So ask yourself and ask your leaders first, how are we doing as leaders or managers? Is your messaging and guidance to your team clear, organized, and focused? And might I add, consistent? Do you focus as a leader on the right things? And as a leader, do you focus your team on the right things? Do you have a clear strategy that's consistent and communicated to your team? Really put yourself on a critical lens. Ask your team, what do they think about you and the other leaders at the company and how you guys execute? And again, this is that dangerous loop where you really have to set the stage of a company that wants to accept constant feedback that's constructive to get better. But go put yourself under that lens, be critical of yourself, ask others, your peers, your team, your clients, how you're doing. And then figure out areas where you can get better and make adjustments. And by the way, we can all get better, no matter how far you've evolved in your evolution as a business person, as an art professional, or as a manager. We can all get better. One of my mentors and person I worked with prior to joining the art industry was the CEO of SunTrust Bank. And he was one of the highest paid business people in the country that didn't have general ownership in a company he founded. And after every meeting, everything he did, he constantly solicited feedback, and he demanded it. And if you didn't give it to him, then you wouldn't be around him very long. So I really encourage that mentality for all of us. It's a big part of our corporate culture and what we do. And it's a great thing to implement, particularly during these times as we're evaluating ourselves and our companies, because the strong will survive. So after you've done with the evaluation to the top, which is a lot of the people on this call, now you have to gauge your team. You have to gauge your team's morale, work ethic, and ultimately commitment to your purpose and of the company and yourself. And in doing that, you have to identify who your star performers are and who your poor performers are and why, right? So ask yourself, is the team unified for the same goals? Are there training opportunities? Is the poor performers due to a lack of guidance and training? Could the individual teammates take on more? Do you micromanage? Is that holding them back? Look, people love more than money. People love the opportunity to lead, grow, and have an impact. So look for those opportunities where you can take those star performers, give them more responsibility, and let them grow in their career and the impact they're having. Now, to your poor performers, you need to do, particularly now, but always, do a really close evaluation of them. Again, first evaluate, is there something wrong with the company or the infrastructure or how we're training or the system or the objection we've put out for them? Are they in the wrong role? Or do they just not have the skill set, period? Or are they not committed to the company? You have to find that out. And if it's internal, if it's training, the wrong role, the wrong leadership, a personal issue, then maybe look to solve that. I will tell you, one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is taking the people that we thought weren't going to make it and turning them into some of the best teammates I've ever had on the team and been very proud of. But if they're not the right person for your company, for your culture, to deliver on your purpose, you need to make the hard decision to potentially move on from those people and set them free to go pursue other opportunities. So now we're going to pivot from you got your team in order, right? Now we're going to pivot to your client experience. and you're going to notice a common theme here. We're asking you in terms of how to improve your client experience, go solicit feedback from your clients and your teammates, and also other professionals in the industry, because they observe and watch how your cases and performance goes. Areas to evaluate in terms of client experience is going to be messaging, process, organization, policies, and systems to start. Let's click into that a little bit. So your process is really critical to your internal and your client experience. So think heavily about process improvement. Where can you improve your processes to be more efficient and improve your client experience? Focus on that. We encourage you to start from the very beginning of your processes for each type of workflows you have, meaning your intended parents, surrogates, donors, new cases, whatever your process is for each of your different types of workflows, start at the very beginning and map out the exact typical process from beginning to end, everything that has to happen, knowing that in our industry, there's variance on almost every case, but there is a consistent list of things that need to get done. So map that out how that works internally, and also how that lands externally. And then look for areas to streamline and improve that process, right? Put it through the critical lens and say, look, just because I've always done it this way, it may not be the most effective way. There may be a better way to do this. Ask yourself, are the right people doing the right things? Do I have this structured in the right place, in the right capacity, in the right order? Is there possibly a better way of doing it? Solicit feedback, talk to your team. Ask yourself, is there technology that could potentially remove a lot of the redundant clerical work, or to help you get more organized, to be more efficient, more consistent with your processes and workflow? So once you've done all that, then you can say, well, look, to improve the client experience, particularly, I should focus on ease of use, right? How to make my business easier to work with and the process more transparent for clients. Have a better workflow that's clear and consistent internally and externally. That would not only make the process smoother for your clients and teammates, but also deliver a better experience with less ambiguity and the process that we deliver on, which is already complex and stressful for many, it's complex enough and so stressful for many. Communication, how can you improve your communication with your clients, with your team, with your partners? The business we're in is fast paced, it's very involved, so constant communication is very critical. How can you get better at that? Maybe streamline and have standard templates and organization for some of that, and consistent points of communication. And then ultimately, all that leads into being more transparent. If you can make your client experience more transparent, more clear, that's going to ultimately build trust and make the process easier and more comfortable for each and every one of them and your team. So a big part of this is system and technology. So look for opportunities to leverage technology to improve and gain efficiencies. Look, most businesses in art are service businesses, right? So we're all people, and service businesses core to every service business is going to be our people. The quality of people we have, the leadership of that company, and then how those people deliver that service and the expertise those individuals have. You'll never replace that with technology. And in fact, that's not the goal of technology. The goal of systems and technology is to leverage that to where you and your team can deliver on being an awesome people service company even better, and leverage technology to organize the process, remove a lot of the redundant tasks, and allow you and your team to focus on the more important, higher impact issues and conversations that are ultimately allow you to further deliver on your purpose, help more people with the same, and do it even better, more consistently. So again, it's all about leveraging technology to improve your business and improve your client experience. So, but start by evaluating your current systems, right? Because most of us have systems in place. Think about if you have the right systems to operate your business, is it best in class? Are the systems and your processes today secure? We all handle very confidential and sensitive information. So is your system and processes secure? And does that security or lack of security expose you to any liability? Are the systems you use today the absolute best systems available to maximize your client experience and the efficiency and consistency of your team? Is there an opportunity to invest in that now or in the future? And are you paying for things you do not need? I mean, candidly, a lot of businesses sign up for technologies, they never get implemented, they don't get leveraged, they're not the best anymore. If you have those, particularly in a time where a lot of businesses are looking to cut costs, eliminate them, eliminate unneeded items. And when you think about the systems you need, guess what? Take a look back at the process analysis you did and the time management analysis you did, and look for areas where you're spending a lot of time that may not be the highest and best use, that may also be a pain point for clients. Look at redundant tasks that systems and process organization can help. And again, the whole goal is to leverage the time more strategically so you can help more people and have a better process, better communication. And even if you're someone, so our companies are on the extreme of technology. We own a technology company and all of our companies are tech enabled. So we're very pro tech, service first, enabled by technology. Even if you're not someone that quickly embraces technology, just think about you when the smartphone came, when the flip phone came out and then the smartphone came out. Maybe you were a little slow to transition to that, and think about how that's changed your life now. That transition is ultimately going to be necessary. And after you make that transition, you're going to wonder how you operated before that. So embrace technology, leverage it. It'll make your company, your client experience better, and ultimately your teammates happier. So the other area to think about for areas of improvement is your brand, marketing, and messaging. Ask your team and clients for feedback. Do an internal review of your brochures and your marketing and your website. Are they up to date? Does your brand resonate with your target market? Remember, we did that earlier in this discussion. Does your team fully understand and represent the brand and message consistently? Do they tell the same story that you tell, that your marketing tells, that you want to tell for your company? And then ask if you can improve to better align your messaging and your brand. And ultimately, if you go through that process, there might be an opportunity to improve your materials, your website, and your brochures and your other marketing materials. But, a great way to start, particularly in an environment where we're not all running out to spend a bunch of money on marketing people and website rebuilds, is just start internally, opening up a document and writing out all of your messaging, writing out with you and your team, you first or you and your team at the same time, what makes your company special? What resonates with clients? What does your team consistently say to your providers, partners, and everybody you work with that says, this is who we are, this is what we're about, this is what makes us special, this is why you need to work with my company? And make sure that the messaging on your website and the messaging that's on your brochures aligns with that. And then create a messaging board and make sure that your team can reference that and speak to that and articulate the value proposition of the company and the why of the company and the purpose of the company extremely clearly and consistently, because they're going to be the number one people out telling the story. And then constantly evaluate and adjust. Even if your brand and market is spot on, it's always healthy to constantly evaluate, adjust, and make sure your branding and marketing and messaging is on par with who you are as your company and you learn and grow. In connection to marketing is your sales strategy. Some of us think of these as the same, right? So to have a sales strategy, you need to start by creating a strategy, right? And make sure that strategy is consistently executed and aligns with your goals, right? So first, what is your sales strategy? So, there's a few buckets within ART, which is kind of direct marketing for a lot of folks, conferences and events for many, and then not just conferences and events held by others, but held by them, and then also your business partnerships, right? So the people that refer you business. So think about each of those buckets, and maybe there's others you have, and think about how you can what's most impactful for your business, where you actually get your business, what drives and helps you grow your business and help more people, and focus improvement in each of those areas, right? So prioritize which area is most impactful, whether it's those or others. So where you're going to put your energy, where can you improve the most, how much time and money you're going to allocate to each. Then set measurable goals and targets. Know exactly who you're targeting and who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with, right? And then make sure your team that's delivering on this sales strategy clearly understands it and is ready to go out and execute that strategy. So again, set a strategy, be clear, set clear goals, and then make sure the team's aligned with that strategy. And you really have to ask yourself as you're going through that process, are you focused on the right things? A lot of us have always just kind of done things a certain way, right? Out of habit, we sponsor this, or we advertise here, or we focus on intended parents or surrogates or donors or clinics. Make sure you take the time to really evaluate your current strategy, and is it the right strategy? What works? What does not work? What generates leads? And put all your effort and energy into that area. What doesn't work or may not be strategic or needed right now, particularly in this time where we're all potentially pulling back and cutting costs a little bit, make sure you focus on the right target markets, target clients, and the highest impact areas. Sales is also an area you want to be very cautious cutting in, but you want to be very strategic and make sure the team is you, if you're the lead salesperson, as many of us are, or your team is laser focused on the right thing. Also, in sales, and that third category I mentioned, really ask yourself, who are your business partners? Who's sending you business? How can you deepen those relationships? Maybe who's not sending you business? Maybe explore that further. And also look to who you're referring to and see if they have the opportunity, since you're referring to them, to also refer back to you. And ultimately, when it comes to those partners, it's all about people doing business with people, and people and business in general is people buying and selling from people, and people buy and sell from people they like and trust. So go be likable and be who you are and be trustworthy and deepen those relationships, because ultimately business and partnerships is all about people working with people they like and trust. So just kind of doubling down on providers and partners here during these times, and also just in general, as your business grows and as the market evolves, it's important that you constantly evaluate your partners and make sure that you're working with the best available partners for you, for your company, but also for your clients. Because remember, when you refer somebody in, it's a reflection of you and your brand and your company. So make sure you're working with the best. In addition, don't work with people out of habit. Again, business is all about relationships. So if you have a long-term relationship with somebody who delivers consistently for you, stick with those folks. But if they're falling behind the market or haven't been the best of partners, then you need to do the right thing for your business and for your clients. Ask these questions. Are the partners the best for you and your clients? Are they delivering for you? Are they secure? These are challenging times, so we're all kind of learning about a lot of our partners now. Ask the question of how are they to work with when things are bad? When things are great and easy, everybody can be a good partner, but when you get into a ditch, who do you want to be in the ditch with? And then do your partners actually help you grow your business? Are they doing things to be additive? Do they care about you and your business? And as always, within any kind of business arrangement with providers or partners, look for ways to grow and improve those relationships, the ones you want to keep. And lastly here on the areas for improvements, we've covered areas that hopefully we hope that for all of you would have generated ideas around projects or areas you can look to improve or things to focus on during this time. But we also know that many of us have had plenty of things we've always wanted to get to. Plenty of delayed projects that at one point we thought was strategic for our business. But in the normal course of action with a very busy business and life and family, we never get to it. Also take that list of projects and put them on the table and evaluate them, prioritize them, see if they're still good things to do, whether that's expanding into a new market, improving your website, bringing on a new employee, whatever it may be. Get them in writing, prioritize them, and determine if they're still worthwhile doing during this slower period. And I know for many of us, it doesn't feel slow. It's just revenue is slow, but business is busy. But now's the time to dig deep and kind of double down on the business. So if you have those projects or others that rose up from the evaluation we've walked through together here, double down and get them done. Now's the right time, and be sure to leverage your team to execute these projects. It keeps the team engaged and interested. And again, people that are aligned with your purpose in your company, they want to take on projects and grow and help the company have a bigger impact. So focus there as well. So that's the end of our kind of walkthrough of this guide. We're going to open it up for questions here in just a second. Brock's going to read off the questions, but I want to just say thank you guys for taking the time to be with us today. We really hope that this advice and this thought process and this dialogue has been helpful for you. As it says here on the slide, we're here for you. So if you want a sounding board or people to talk to in the industry, reach out to one, all, or any of us. We're happy we're happy to help, and we want to be good partners to you all and to our friends, colleagues, and clients in the industry. So again, we hope this is helpful. We're going to open up for questions now. Roland and Brock, before we start with questions, do you guys want to add anything?
I just want to thank everyone for staying on the line with us and hearing us out. We put a lot of thought and effort into this program, and this is our information consolidated over a short little period here. So into a short little document here, we can obviously expand on these things, but this is the bare bones of what we thought would be extremely useful to you all that we can provide in an hour. But Roland, do you have anything to follow up?
Yeah, just look, I know we've got some questions to get to and things like that, but if we don't get to your questions, or if you read through this stuff and you start implementing it on your own time, and questions do arise, feel free to email us, feel free to call us, feel free to, get a hold of us somehow. We're happy to expound on any of this stuff. We just wanted to keep this as concise as possible for everybody involved.
Great. Well, we only have one question right now, and that question revolved around the PPP program, which I will be answering, and that's if a company only has independent contractors, do they qualify for the PPP program? Unfortunately, no, not at the current time. When the program first came out and the first round of financing, for the first 4 days, they allowed independent contractors, but quickly after it opened it up to be that way, they changed it and no longer accept that. Adam, if you'd like, maybe we can stay on for an extra minute or two to see if anyone else asks any questions, but that's all we have right now.
Awesome. Well, for any of you all that have questions, the Q&A section is right at the bottom. If it's not showing, it's a hover over. You can click it and ask it, and we'll answer. We'll wait a minute, see if anything comes through. If not, we'll conclude the conversation.
There's another question about PPP. I heard there's a possibility that PPP was going to extend to 16 weeks. Do you know anything about that? Maybe you have to elaborate on that. I know that I've not heard an expansion of the months available necessarily for covering payroll. There's a huge stimulus that they're really pushing for right now that I've been reading about, as far as sending out additional stimulus checks and possibly expanding the programs into obviously independent contractors, maybe expanding this program if the economy does not come back, but that's not a for sure thing yet.
And Rod, just to jump in, there have been conversations about potentially extending the measure period to allow for additional time for companies to hire back staff and adjust up. Nothing has passed yet. At this point, it's in the grapevine. It's out there as being considered, but nothing has formally been passed to date. But I have spoken with many folks who follow this closer than I do that think it will go through. But I think the savvy thing to do for your business now, when you think about that loan, is to stick within the current framework, so you can maximize the amount of that loan that should be forgiven.
question here. Another question regarding sales and Facebook marketing. Should we be changing our typical marketing to deal with COVID messaging or stick with the regular surrogacy stuff? Mixed. Adam, you're the salesperson here, so what do you think?
Yeah, so look, I think a bit of both, right? And certainly there's folks on the line here and in general that have more, that are better at the marketing game than we are in terms of direct to clients. You all know your clients best, but now is a great time to message, and people are concerned that you're not going to be around, how this is going to impact this journey, whether they should move forward. Now is the time to double down on the messaging. We think that you're here for them, that they can still move forward, and that if you have special programs for COVID, focus on that. But it's definitely a time to double down and make sure the industry knows that you're here, you're open, you're helping clients, you're not going anywhere, and that you're focused on messaging specifically and strategically to some of the pain points out there now that may bring more folks in. So the answer to the question, we think, is a bit of both. But anytime you have the opportunity in an environment to directly target your messaging and marketing based on the current environment, we highly encourage you to do that. Great question. So we currently have no questions, which means we must have been very thorough in our coverage. We'll wait another minute, and if nothing else comes in, we'll conclude. And again, we're here. If you guys want to reach out to us offline, we thank you all again for your time and energy and willingness to join us today. And we wish you and your families the best during these challenging times, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help. So with that, we have no other questions. We'll conclude the presentation. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
All right, thank you.